have to make an update to my John Costella proof video already. After I commented on this somewhere, I was presented with an argument against it. And I didn't really understand the argument, but there were elements mentioned there which caused me to start thinking about this again. And one of those elements is the idea of, I don't know what it's called. Is it perspective? Or is it parallax? Whatever it is. See, I don't understand the technical stuff. But the fact is that in photographs, if you have an object that's much closer to the camera than another object which is in the background, it can cause certain effects. The moving of the camera can cause the closer image to change its apparent position in relation to the background, whatever that's called. And I was aware of this phenomenon, of course, but I didn't think it made a difference here. I don't know why I thought that. I think it's because I don't understand the mathematics behind all of this, or the physics behind all of this. But here, Costella says that the pull on the stem and sign is flipping back and forth as a result of it having been inserted into the film without considering the issue of pincushion distortion caused by the lens of the camera that took the film. So if you put something in after the film that didn't come through the lens, it's not going to look consistent in the film with the rest of the material in the film that did come through the lens, basically. And I just decided that I agreed with Costella because I didn't find the argument, whatever it said, to be persuasive. I looked at my video again, and then I realized that there's something in the background that John Costella mentions, and that's the tree. But he says we don't have to worry about that because the tree, part of the tree could be blowing in the wind. And yes, it's true, part of the tree could be blowing in the wind. But the problem is that if that's what's happening, the tree is blowing exactly the same way the pole on the sign is moving. And that seems like quite a coincidence to me. And here's what I'm talking about there. In the upper portion, that's a part of the tree that hangs down. And of course, in the lower portion, that's a pull from the sign. Now, the reason, what happens is that they both, when they switch from frame to frame, they both move the same way. That is, they both move to the left a bit, and they even rotate a little bit. And I think that fact is too much of a coincidence to ignore. Now, it does it less than the sign does. It's not as pronounced. But the reason for that is because the sign is much closer to the camera and than the tree is, and also the tree is much closer to the background that is highlighting the apparent motion. And so I don't know how to explain it, but when you're talking about objects, if you have one object that's real close to the camera, another object much further away, and then a background object that both of those that can be seen in the same image, then a slight motion of the camera is going to move the foreground object much more and the background object much less regarding the further background object. So you would expect, if this is what's going on, that it's not the pincushion distortion, but that if this kind of thing is what's going on, whether it's parallax or perspective, then you would expect the pole to move much more than the tree. And that's what happens here. So I think this must be the explanation, and that therefore it is not a proof that the sign has been inserted into the Zapruder film. It does not prove that the sign was not inserted to the Zapruder film. It just means that if it was done before the optical treatment. Now, you could argue that means it's not faked. It hasn't been inserted. It could have been inserted. There are ways that could have been done, and I can't explain them concisely. But I also want to stay on this short topic here because I want to respond to my own video. I'm going to leave up the video, I think, because it's there's other material that gives context in there that I'm not going to repeat here. But I think when you see these two moving, you can see, or their apparent motion, you can see it's the same motion, it's just more in the sign than it is in the tree. And I think it's very unlikely that this reflects the tree blowing in the wind, since it corresponds exactly, except in smaller amount, to the motion of the sign. So I think Costella's proof is wrong. Sorry.